you mentioned capitalism. I actually think, so there are not a lot of good thinkers, maybe one or two, that started to discuss how a hyper-bitcoinization world will look like. I think it's so we could imagine and we can come up with scenarios, but I think it will be such a revolutionary thing that it's very difficult to think about it, what exactly will happen. And it's possible that actually we go beyond capitalism, that we find something that is even better than capitalism, that is actually, it has some components of all the economical systems, right? There is even some of a socialist idea. No, some people don't like that, but some ideas could be good because, for example, as Bitcoiners, we don't think we are in competition with each other, right? We are actually helping each other. More people there are, better it is, right? We want more and more people to be orange peel. It's something that usually doesn't happen with capitalism, where actually you compete over resources, right? And that kind of a little bit leads to the other component of the question. And this is one of the most controversial topics when I mention it. Bitcoin is finite, is not scarce. And again, I'm writing a book about all these ideas, and there will be a big chapter on this idea. Now, there is one concept in physics, because physics is my guide. There is an entire branch of physics called econophysics, where we are trying to apply principles from physics in trying to understand economical system, social system like cities, etc. So many these are analogies. They don't apply one to one, but they are guiding principles. One of the things that happen in nature, right? And nature, if you think about, is the ultimate source of creation, right? Where everything comes from. In nature, there is this idea of conservation of different quantities, like, for example, conservation of energy, conservation of momentum, conservation of angular momentum. Many different properties are conserved. What conservation of charge? For example, if I create particles from energy, because it is allowed to go from energy to matter and matter to energy, right? E equal mc squared. You can transform one into another. So I could take a lot of energy and I can create particles. And we see that in the labs, etc. We have done it before, where we create two particles, matter, directly from energy, right? Because energy doesn't have a charge, it doesn't have an electrical charge, it's neither positive or negative. When you create these two particles, they need to have a total charge of 0. So one will be negative and the other one will be positive, in such a way that whatever you had in the beginning, so 0 charge, you're going to have as a sum in the end, right? It's one of the laws that we observe. You follow me? So this is called conservation of charge. You started with a 0 charge, you need to end up. And it happened in many other reactions, where you calculate how much charge you have in the beginning. When you allow some transformation, you have to have the same charge in the end, the total charge. You can have different things, a neutron decaying in a proton and a positron. So it's going to have a positive charge and a negative charge, an electron, proton and an electron. And then the two charges make 0, and this is how a neutron decay. It decays in two different particles. Now, the same thing, I think, applies with Bitcoin. We have a conservation of money principle, because when I buy a Bitcoin, somebody needs to give me the Bitcoin. So in a sense, they created a negative Bitcoin. There is a negative value Bitcoin in their ledger. This is how a ledger works, right? You have to move something from one person to another, to one wallet to another, and you have a positive entry and a negative entry. The two cancel each other. That is how a perfect ledger works. So to create a perfect ledger, Satoshi needed to keep this conservation of money principle. It's a very deep analogy with the idea of how nature works. Nature works by splitting things and keeping everything the same, right? So the total number of Bitcoin stays the same. They are just when you buy or exchange Bitcoin, you have a transfer of Bitcoin from one side to another. But in a sense, if you want to think it like that, it's like creating a positive Bitcoin and a negative Bitcoin, and the two cancel and keep the system constant. That is what is the big deal about the finite ledger, that you cannot have a perfect ledger if the amount of coins is not finite. Now, in theory, you could have a slow growth or whatever, but it's even better if it is finite, okay? And it's something that can be explored, understood. It's an interesting idea to look at it in that way. Now, what many people confuse is that finite amount of Bitcoin with scarcity. They think at a certain point we will run out of Bitcoin. That is one of the things that it's almost disgusting to me when people think about that, because first of all, it's not real. It's not what happens. There is absolutely no evidence of that. The market is an active market, is a live market. People buy and sell Bitcoin all the time. You have data about that. You can show that there are long-term holders that when the price reaches certain values, they sell. And the ETFs sell. They don't always buy. They sometimes sell. Maybe Saylor doesn't sell. Maybe because he made a public announcement that he will never sell. Fine. Okay. Maybe there are other hodlers that don't ever sell and we will never sell. But the market will come to a still. And in fact, your Bitcoin will literally go to zero if everybody didn't sell. Because if you have a market that is not liquid, where everybody says, I'm just holding my Bitcoin, then nothing happens. And sure, the price will stay there, but it's a meaningless price, because a price has to be dynamic, has to be something that people agree on it all the time. There is an exchange. It's based on exchanging. It's based on dynamic. If the price was still, if the price of Bitcoin stayed the same, this is what last time that was an exchange, because it's always based on the last time somebody bought Bitcoin or sold Bitcoin. It will lose meaning. It's like it will be a dead thing. Bitcoin will be dead. It will be a dead asset. So again, it's one of these things that for some reason, people don't have a right framework. They don't think in the right way. You want Bitcoin to grow, and adoption means people holding on Bitcoin a certain amount, but also people exchanging Bitcoin. You want both of them, and you can have them, right? It's not contradictory, because for example, one time I made a model, that is, again, is some of the things that I'm trying over time. It will take time to teach this concept. I made this model where I envision this thing. It's a play model, like in physics we call them toy model. But basically, it works in this way. Imagine we produce all the Bitcoin from the start, 21 million, right? And Satoshi owned these coins. He produced them all at once, and he owned them. And then anytime somebody joins the network, and if you look at the adoption curve, it looks like basically goes like, I made even a video that people can go and watch in my YouTube channel. We made with my son. My son is a video maker. We make an animation of this thing. But basically, if you take it literally, it goes like this. The number of Bitcoiners that join the network is 3, because we see a power law that is a cube of time. So that means there are 3 people joining, multiplied by the number of people that are already there in the network, divided by the age of the system. It's actually a precise formula. 3 times the number of Bitcoiners that are already there, divided by the age of the system. This is how every day. Now, you don't take this literally. It's an average, right? But if we take it literally, the day one, we had only Satoshi, so one person. So you take 3, you multiply by Satoshi, 1, and then you divide it by the age of the system. It is 1 day. So you get 3. So day 1, there are 3 people coming in the network, right? Was it true? I don't know. Maybe there were 5. There were not many, because there were not many people, even if you look at some of his Satoshi emails, etc., that even understood what he was doing, even in his very small circle of cypherpunks, right? So 3 people joined the network. Al Finney was one of them, right? So they joined three people. Now, these 3 people go and orange peel other people. So now we have a total number of 4 people. 3 times 4 is 12. we divide by 2 because it's day 2, we get 6 more people. So in total now we have 10. And you can continue to do this over and over again. And how I did it was, so this is actually a pretty good simplification of actually how the orange peeling works. It follows this formula. Now, the game I played to talk about this finiteness of a number of coins was every time the people come in, Satoshi redistributes uniformly the coins. He gives the same amount of coins to everybody, including himself, right? So by day 1, because there are a total number of 4, everybody has 25%, right? And then more and more people join, and the coins are distributed. Now, the only thing is, every time new people come in, by some mechanism, it is consensus, etc. Now, this is one of the things I need to work and trying to understand how the market somehow knows that it needs to value the price of Bitcoin with the square of the number of participants, because this is how it works. If you look at the data, the relationship between addresses and price is about a square. So the new people come in, they say, listen, we pay this amount of dollars to get in the network. You need to pay a value that is proportional, right? So, for example, the second day, we go up, right, from being 4, we go up to 10, right? Because 6 new people come. Now, you guys are going to pay 10 to the square, 100, right? $100. So if we paid $1, you guys need to pay this amount. So if you do that game, where basically these are all the numbers that we observe in Bitcoin, how the system grows, what is the value that is assigned to Bitcoin. But the only thing that is different, instead of some people accumulating a lot of Bitcoin, the Bitcoins are distributed uniformly. Do you know what happens if you look at what is the value of every single person? Because you will think, how can I become wealthier in this way if I distribute everything? It will not happen. You do. You actually, over time, everybody is gaining, even if I distribute everything uniformly. And so it means that by selling some of your Bitcoin, because the only way that new people can come in is by you selling some of your Bitcoin. Somebody needs to do it, right? Maybe you don't do it, but in this toy model, I did it where everybody does it. Everybody say, hey guys, it's ideal. It's a little toy. Like I say, it's a simulation, right? It's a simulation where they decided, why don't we do it in this way, where everybody sells a little bit and we can bring in new people and we can make the system bigger, right? Because it's simpler to do it in that way. And what I show is that even in that case where everybody's selling, every single body sells, the system still goes up and it reproduces exactly the same price growth that we see. Exactly. Nothing changes. Now, we don't have that system. It means that, it still happen even if some people holds on the coin, but this experiment, I wrote an entire article. I don't know. It should be viral. Everybody should talk about it because it destroys this idea that the price goes up because of scarcity. If everybody sells and it makes the Bitcoin available to everybody else, it's not scarce. And I got exactly the same behavior. You see? Do you understand what I'm trying to explain?
It's fascinating.
But it has nothing to do with people, not selling their Bitcoin or leaving the exchange. This is a completely wrong way of thinking about Bitcoin. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It has to do instead with the opposite, with the fact that more and more people adopt Bitcoin. The people that talk about scarcity, they have to explain to me how they can reconcile the idea that they want more and more people join the network, right? Because you say, hey, we are, you see, it's illogical. They don't use critical thinking. How can you say at the same time we are early? We use all this terminology, right? Because I follow a lot of these people. We are early. We are not early, by the way. We have only 2 orders of magnitude to go. We have already done 8. That is another way of thinking about scale that tells you, no, we are not early. We are actually almost done. And they say things like this: we are early. That means that more people are going to join in, and at the same time, they insist about scarcity. How these people can join in? If Bitcoin is scarce, it's illogical. You want a balance. You want a balance between holding, because remember, even in my toy model, you are not selling everything. You are just selling enough for the new people, and you need to sell less. Why? Because the Bitcoin value goes up. And so if they divide everything equally in that little toy model that they did, they are selling less and less because the value goes up, and they distribute it among everybody. There are more people to distribute the wealth around, but in the every single person, their their total asset goes up because they are distributing uniformly, but the price goes up with the square of the people that join in, and that grows as a power law, right? So the total value goes with the times 6 up. And so that are things that people, unless you try to find the right angle, trying to look at all these principles from mathematics, etc., people use their intuition to understand something that is complex like Bitcoin, and they fail. Many times they use the wrong thing, because really Bitcoin is teaching us to leave these ideas of scarcity, of Black Friday. This is what it reminds me when people say, oh, we're running out of Bitcoin and there are less coins on the exchanges. First of all, I always challenge, say, can you show me a graph that shows that less coin in the exchange pushes the price up? Nobody ever done it. There is no such a single graph that shows the relationship between the data, because people are usually not challenging that way to show a relationship between two things. They make these claims. They say, oh, we're running out of coins in the exchange. And they are trying to imply that the price will go up. But when you actually look at the data, there is not evidence that has any impact at all. That is one of the things that I argue with people all the time. But, I'm right because the data is the data. You cannot argue with the data. And in my little toy model, I show that even if everybody was selling a little bit of their Bitcoin, so, if they do exactly the opposite of what they say, that, nobody's selling, the price goes up, and it goes exactly like it did in the past. They reproduce exactly the same mechanism. What is needed is more people adopting Bitcoin. That is really what is needed. It's a different story. It's not about scarcity. It's about adoption. It's very, very different idea.
If you like that clip, then you definitely got to check out this next spicy clip. I think you're really going to like it. Come on, check it out. But if you want the full version, the full interview, then check that out over here. Come on, do it. I'll see you in there.